The great ship drifted between stars, a silent leviathan of polished metal and soft light. Its name was the Harmonious Overture, a vessel of the galactic concord, and its purpose was unity. It carried emissaries, scholars, and artists from 100 species, all dedicated to the principle that understanding could be woven from the threads of shared culture. Tonight was the culmination of their voyage, a grand concert in the main observation bay, where the stars themselves would be the backdrop to a symphony of universal harmony. Among the attendees was a human delegate. She was a small figure amidst the assemblage of towering armored gastropods from Xylos, the graceful floating metazoids of Lyra, and the multi-limbed insectal diplomats of KVRR. Her name was not important, but her presence was a quiet mystery. She did not mingle with the chatter of telepathic greetings or the scent-based poetry of the floral delegates from Verdant. She simply observed, her eyes calm and watchful, a small polished case held securely in her hands. The concert began. The Xylosians produced deep, resonant tones from the chambers of their shells, a sound felt in the bones. The Lyran metazoids pulsed with bioluminescent rhythms, creating visual melodies that danced in the air. The Cave-Air musicians manipulated spheres of contained atmosphere, drawing forth whistling harmonies that spoke of their windy homeworld. It was technically proficient, culturally authentic, and to the human ear, utterly alien. A polite silence followed each piece, a silence of respectful incomprehension. The unity felt fragile, theoretical. Then it was her turn. No one had expected the human to perform. Her species was new to the Concord, known more for their stubborn individuality and chaotic history than for artistic refinement. The concertmaster, a stately being with opalescent scales, announced her with a hint of diplomatic obligation. She walked to the center of the star-lit stage, placed her case on a stand provided by a helpful drone, and opened it. Inside, resting on velvet, was an object of ancient design. It was a violin, its wood warm and gleaming under the lights. She lifted it with a tenderness that bordered on reverence, settled it under her chin, and raised the bow. She took a slow, deep breath, her eyes closing for a moment. Then she began to play. The first note was a clean, pure thread of sound. It was not loud, but it pierced the artificial atmosphere of the bay with a startling clarity. It was a simple scale at first, and it blossomed into a melody. It was an old melody, one born on a world of blue skies and green hills, a melody that carried the weight of human memory of joy, found in simple things, of sorrow weathered, of quiet resilience and enduring hope. It was not complex by galactic standards, but it was alive. The delegates listened, their various sensory organs attuned to the vibrations in the air. They heard the skill, the precise control of pitch and timbre. But they felt something else. They felt the emotion woven into the very fabric of the sound. The gastropod from Xylos felt a strange warmth in its core, a memory of its own sun's first light. The Lyran metazoid saw colors in the sound it had no name for, patterns that recalled the peaceful depths of its home ocean. The Cave-Air diplomat, whose race communicated through subtle air currents, felt the music as a perfect, structured breeze, telling a story of mountains and gentle rains. She played on, her body moving with the phrases, her face a mask of serene concentration. The music swelled, speaking of struggle, then softened into a passage of breathtaking tenderness. In the final movement, it became a vibrant, dancing thing, a celebration of existence itself that transcended language and biology. As the last note faded, hanging in the air like a distant star, she lowered the bow and violin. Her eyes opened, and she gave a small, polite nod. There was no applause. Applause was a human custom. Instead, there was a profound, total silence. But it was a different silence than before. It was not the silence of confusion, but of awe. It was a silence so deep It seemed to absorb the very hum of the ship's engines. Every being in the bay was utterly still, immersed in the lingering echo of the song. The human delegate seemed to expect nothing. She carefully returned the violin to its case, fastened the clasps, and turned to leave the stage. As she did, the Lyran concertmaster glided forward, its bioluminescence pulsing with a slow, deep rhythm of profound respect. It spoke through the universal translator, its voice a soft chime in the quiet. That was a remarkable emission. The emotional carrier waves were unprecedented. May we inquire about the compositional source? What is the narrative of the piece? She looked at the concertmaster, then at the gathered faces, each expressing wonder in its own physiology. She reached into a pocket and withdrew a small, flat datapad. She typed a few words and offered it to the concertmaster. The text glowed on the screen for all to see. Asterisk. The piece is called Spring. It is very old. It is about my home. Asterisk. A caviar diplomat clattered forward, its antennae quivering. The precision of the atmospheric disturbance. It implies a hearing sensitivity of the highest order. Your auditory cortex must be magnificently evolved to translate such sensory input into such controlled output. It is a biological marvel. The human offered a gentle, almost sad smile. She took the pad back and typed again. Asterisk. Thank you. But I cannot hear it. Asterisk. The words hung in the translator's neutral tone. A wave of disbelief passed through the assembly. It was a physiological impossibility. How could a being produce such exact, such emotionally saturated sound without the feedback of hearing? She typed once more, her fingers moving with calm certainty. Asterisk. I feel it. Through the wood. Through my hands. In my bones. The vibration is the music. I learned it this way. Asterisk. The truth settled over them. She was deaf. The beauty she had created had never entered her ears. It had been born entirely from tactile memory, from vibration, from a map of sensation etched into her nerves and muscles. She had not performed the music. She had become its physical conduit, translating feeling directly into sound for others to experience. The Xylosian delegate let out a low, reverberating hum that the translator parsed as, "You built a bridge of feeling and invited us to cross." The human's art was not about auditory perfection, which many species could surpass. It was about the translation of internal experience into a universal language of emotion. She had taken something deeply, intimately human, a melody, a memory of Earth's spring, and by the very fact of her unique perception, had stripped it of all parochial limitation. She could not hear the music, so she had no choice but to feel its truth, and in doing so, she transmitted that pure, felt truth to all of them. From that night, the human delegate was sought after. She did not speak often, but she played. She played in quiet corridors for the plant-like verdants, who swayed to the vibrations in the soil of their pots. She played for the engineers in the engine room, who swore the plasma stream stabilized to a smoother flow when her music was present. She played for the lonely telepath from a reclusive species, who wept crystalline tears and said the music was the first sound that did not hurt to receive. The mission of the emission, the mission of the music, harmonious overture, had been to find unity through culture. They had found it, not in the flawless execution of alien traditions, but in the vulnerable, singular expression of one being who perceived the universe differently. She had shown them that harmony was not about sounding the same note, but about feeling the same resonance. Her silence was not a lack. It was the fertile ground from which a deeper understanding had grown. She couldn't hear, but her playing left everyone in awe, and in that awe they finally found a harmony that was real.